Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Monuments Man. Today's unit is Battery H, 3rd Pennsylvania Heavy Artillery. Battery H has two monuments on the battlefield. They have a stone monument located on Hanover Road and a bronze position marker on Hancock Avenue. Now as it turns out, there's a bit of a disagreement about when the one on Hanover Road was placed. According to Stone Sentinels and Wikipedia, it was placed in 1891. But according to Tom Huntington's Guide to Gettysburg Battlefield Monuments, it was placed in 1889. So which is correct? Honestly, I have no idea. Although I think that Huntington's claim makes more sense, since most unit monuments were placed in the late 1880s. Fortunately, there is no disagreement about the date of dedication for the bronze tablet, which was placed on 1913 by the Gettysburg National Military Park Commission. Captain William Rank was Battery H's commander during the battle. Captain Rank was born on July 12, 1838, to Joseph and Fanny Teresa Rank. Rank was commissioned as captain of Battery H on January 19, 1863. He served until July 25, 1865, when Battery H was mustered out. Rank also had a brother-in-law through his sister Annie named Edward Marshall, who also served in the Civil War as a lieutenant in the 15th Pennsylvania Cavalry. Battery H was mustered in from all across Pennsylvania during the fall and winter of 1862. Companies D, F, and G were recruited as part of Colonel Herman Segbarth's War Department initiative to recruit a full regiment of heavy artillery for 3 years' service. Overall, despite seeing some heavy action at Gettysburg, Battery H was not involved in any other engagement throughout the conflict and remained attached to the defenses of Baltimore for the entire duration of the war. Prior to Gettysburg, members of the 3rd Pennsylvania Heavy Artillery were defrauded of their bounty money, which they were promised to receive upon their enlistment. Eventually, cooler heads prevailed, and Battery H was able to participate in the Battle of Gettysburg. They wound up taking one of the more unique paths to Gettysburg, as initially they were not actually attached to the Army of the Potomac. They were instead a part of the Middle Department and were stationed at Baltimore. In May, the Pennsylvania boys had traded in their heavy artillery for 3-inch ordnance rifles and were acting as field artillery. Battery H was a section of 2 guns and had spent most of their time in service guarding the bridge over the Monocacy River near Frederick, Maryland. When Lee's invasion of the North began, Battery H was ordered back to Baltimore. They began to make their way to the Relay House, which was a hotel built in 1830 that was initially meant to service passengers of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, but had since been repurposed by the Union Army to serve as a transportation hub for soldiers. On their way, they had a near encounter with Stuart's cavalry raid, during which they were almost captured. After their near miss of Stuart's column, they attached themselves to John McIntosh's cavalry brigade. They arrived at Gettysburg at midday on July 2nd. They were 52 men strong and had 2 guns. They didn't participate in any of the July 2nd engagements due to the time they arrived and where they arrived. On July 3rd, they were positioned along where Hancock Avenue is today and assisted in the repulse of Pickett's charge. They were quite lucky when it came to casualties during the battle and only counted 1 man missing in action. Now, normally in a video like this, I would get into the monuments themselves next and then move on to the regimental history. However, since Battery H was only engaged in 1 battle during the entirety of the war, and outside of that remained at Baltimore for the rest of the time, I don't see it as being necessary to include a section on the regimental history. So, with that said, let's get into the monuments. The primary monument is located on the north side of Hanover Road in East Cavalry Field, 1.4 miles east of the interchange of Hanover Road and U.S. Route 15. Like we discussed earlier, sources disagree as to when the monument was placed, although the 2 most often believed dates are 1889 and 1891. The bronze position marker is located on Hancock Avenue and was placed in 1913 by the Gettysburg National Military Park Commission. The official monument is a little over 9 feet tall and has a 58-inch by 89-inch base. It's also decorated with various bronze engravings. On the top is an engraving of the State Seal of Pennsylvania. Below that is a much larger, more detailed engraving of a cannon sitting behind a fence. And below that is a bronze depiction of 2 crossed swords on a button surrounded by what I think kind of looks like a flower. The text on the front reads, Battery H, 3rd Pennsylvania Heavy Artillery, 1st Brigade, 2nd Division, Cavalry Corps. Mounted as a battery of light artillery, May 6, 1863. 2nd Section participated in the battle. The text on the right reads, Mustered in, January 19, 1863. Mustered out, July 25, 1865. The text on the left reads, Temporarily attached to the 1st Brigade, 2nd Division, Cavalry Corps, from June 28th to July 7th, 1863. The bronze marker on Hancock Avenue doesn't have any unique decorations, but it is flanked on either side by 3-inch ordnance rifles, much like the ones Battery H would have used here at Gettysburg. These rifles were probably made by Phoenix Iron Works, although at the time they were called Phoenix Iron Company, or PIC, as the text on each gun's muzzle says. The plaque reads, Army of the Potomac, Cavalry Corps, 2nd Division, 1st Brigade, 3rd Pennsylvania Heavy Artillery, Section Battery H, 2 3-inch rifles, Captain William D. Rank. July 2nd, marched with the 2nd Cavalry Division and went into position on the Hanover Road 3 miles from Gettysburg. July 3rd, in position here in early morning, and was engaged in the afternoon assisting in the repulse of Longstreet's assault. Loss, missing 1 man. Battery H's service would come to an end on July 25, 1865, 3 months after the surrender of Robert E. Lee at Appomattox Courthouse, and 2 months after the Grand Review of the Armies. The rest of the 3rd would have to wait all the way until November 9th to be mustered out. Despite only serving in 1 battle of the war, Battery H's monument here serves as a reminder that every contribution to victory ought be remembered, no matter how small or inconsequential it may seem. Anyways, that's all I have for you on this episode of Monuments Man. I hope you enjoyed the video. If there's anything I missed, let me know in the comments. And with that, this is the Copperhead Historian, signing off.